I can't swivel in this chair because it's not the swivel chair, and I'm upset. The real chair is over there. Help. This video is dedicated to somebody named Grace. A little while back, she said something about Johnny Test, saying something about it being a good show or something. I said I would make a video on it. Here is that video. Enjoy, Grace. I have this little paper right here that has all my points of Johnny Test on it, and I'm just gonna go through it and talk about them. So that's the plan for this video. That's how we're doing it. So for those of you who don't know, Johnny Test is a cartoon that exists. That's all you need to know. A lot of people have already heard about Johnny Test. It's seen as a relatively average show, nothing special, nothing crazy, not too bad either. And I'm just here to say, yeah, it's nothing special. And so I want to talk about that. So that's this video. Here, let's get into it. The animation in Johnny Test is subpar, to say the least. Take a look at this. Look at this. I want you to look at this and say, yeah, this is perfectly fine looking animation. I mean, don't get me wrong, the colors are nice and there are well-defined lines, but other than that, the designs of the characters and the look of the environment does not look very nice. It's very jagged and very all over the place in terms of spacing, and doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just kind of going off on a whim here, but there are a lot of better shows that are better animated than Johnny Test. I want you to look at Gravity Falls, and even things like SpongeBob has better designed characters and better designed worlds, and they look generally nicer. Like, I'm going to be using Gravity Falls as a reference here because Gravity Falls is a really good kids cartoon. And, like, the characters look nice, and the world is good, and the atmosphere is nice, and everything just looks exactly as the show Gravity Falls sounds like it would look like. Johnny Test does not fit that. I mean, like, going back, like, just looking at the animation, the way that it moves, it just looks so jagged and looks so very bouncy and not too smooth, you know? In a way, like, I don't know how else to explain it, but, like, just look at what you're seeing right now. I mean, I don't think anybody could agree, oh, this is, like, quality animation. I mean, don't get me wrong, they definitely put some effort into it, but it's just not very great. I mean, it fits the average bar. It's the status quo. It's not special per se, but it is something. Next thing I'd like to talk about in terms of sound quality. The biggest thing with Johnny Test is the sound effects. And look at this 10-second clip, and I want you to count how many sound effects are in this clip.
The world not your oyster today?
I just went to buy the new Smash Badger 9 video game, but it's not on sale anymore.
Something like 1,000,000 per second. I swear that they have like a rule on whatever studio runs it. They have a sign that says, make sure you have at least one sound effect every 3 seconds. And the most notorious one is the whip sound effect. Like, and it drives you up a wall because as soon as you start noticing it, it gets so repetitive and bad. I mean, I used to watch the show all the time when I was younger, and I never noticed the whip sound effect, but as soon as I watched a video talking about it, it was just like, I can't not hear it anymore. It's just there, and it adds nothing to the story. The sound effects are there mainly just to act as attention grabbers for the kids again. And you might say, but the sound effects for the kids, and it's a kids show. But that's no excuse. You can keep kids entertained with a kids show by not having sound effects. You can have things like funny characters, an interesting story, and things that kids can actually understand, and things that make sense to a kid. Having sound effects is probably the cheapest way of keeping a kid's attention. And that's why it sucks. There's infinitely better ways to keep a kid's attention. And honestly, if you're relying on sound effects for it, then I think that really says something about your show, if the only thing going for it is the sound effects. Moving on to the humor, I mean, it's a typical kids cartoon. I mean, what else would you expect? There's fart jokes, there's poop jokes, blah, haha, funny. But it's just, that's the kind of kids humor that's in most kids shows nowadays. I can't blame it for that, but does that make it good? No. I mean, again, going back to Gravity Falls, it has some really good humor and good jokes that even kids can enjoy. And so I feel like the writing in it is just not any good. Getting into the humor, part of it is just an aspect of the writing. But looking at it as a whole, it's just generally bad. The story is not very cohesive. I watched the one episode I used as a reference was this one. I think they went back in time, and some time related one. That was the episode that I was referencing. That's the thing that I'm using in this video, and it's generally forgettable. Every episode follows a formula. It always follows. You have a situation. Johnny causes problem, solution, end of episode. And it's like at the end of every episode, time rewinds back to that first point because Johnny never learns any lessons. All he does, he's like, oh yeah, I won't do this again. But then as soon as the next episode starts, he's goofing off again. And it makes no sense as to why he would do that, because he said in the last episode, oh yeah, I'll make sure I don't do this. But then it just makes no sense. And I get that you don't want to have an overarching story in certain shows, but here it's just lazy. It's just like starting off from fresh on the exact same day and just having a different path going through to the end. And it's just gets boring after a while, and they repeat plots all the time. I know that one of the most common arcs was the Johnny X thing, and there's always a bunch of cliches in terms of the show itself. Like you have the girls' lab or something like that. I don't know. I only watched one reference episode. I don't care enough for it. And like the biggest complaint about this is, oh, it's a kids show. But you can't say that it's a kids show. I mean, it is a kids show, don't get me wrong, and by all means it's a kids show. It's average, it's perfectly fine on the air. But what I'm saying here is that it could be better. I mean, when you say the pitch of it, rebellious kid gets into trouble with his talking dog, and madness ensues. That has a little bit of potential. It has a little bit of leeway, but it's like they took whatever potential that had and they forced themselves into this formula of arc, increasing action, falling action, and it's just not good. It could be done so much better, but it's just they just don't have the energy for it. The only thing that I really like about the show is the theme song. I mean, it is kind of a banger, not gonna lie. I mean, you know, as soon as that guitar riff hits, it's like, you know, it's prime stuff. That's my take on Johnny Test. This video took way too long to make, and yeah. Goodbye.